Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and this is BP NFL. It's week 17. It's time to talk about the props, and I am rested from the holidays, ready to go. Shout out to my boy Seth for holding things down on yesterday's program. I'm sure Terrell was happy not to see me after the butt kicking the Baltimore Ravens gave the Steelers last week. That's right, T. That's right, it happened, but it's in the spirit of the holidays. I let it go. Gentlemen, last night, we also got a football game, or so I was told. I was at Madison Square Garden watching WWE with my kids, so I didn't have to watch it. But Welsh, I heard it was a barn burner of a game.
It was the worst game I've ever seen. The words I want to use, we can't use here.
Okay.
It was bad. It was really, really bad to watch. Tough spot. Classic Thursday night football. Speechless about what we got to end this year.
Is it possible maybe the guys just don't want to play around the holidays, Erickson? I mean, everybody wants time with their friends and families, a little break. Why don't they just give these guys a holiday bye week? Why do they have to make them play? Oh, it's Christmas Day. Oh, it's a day after Christmas. Everyone's got to play. No, they don't. They really don't have to play on Christmas Day. And I don't even know how many people were sitting around watching all those games, to be honest. Not like Thanksgiving. There's gifts. There's all these other things going on at Christmas time. The holiday games were kind of blowouts too on Christmas Day. What do you make of it as the NFL continues to put games every single moment of our lives on?
Well, the thing you have to keep in mind is with all these holiday games, like it's all teams playing on short weeks, right? So it's like harder for them to prepare. And that's why the better teams come out on top by a lot, because they're more prepared than the teams that are inferior. And that's why they get blown out. So yeah, I mean, that's why Thursday night games, right, are usually bad for the most part. like no one's going to surprise Seahawks Bears. Oh, 6-3. Yep. That smells like a Thursday night game. But again, Welsh said it was bad. From my perspective, it was great because I went 4-0 with my picks. Good. First half spread. The Bears can't score in the first half. Nailed it. DJ Moore over 5.5 catches. Nailed it. Geno Smith under his pass attempts. Nailed it. So, and DeAndre Swift, the gift that keeps on giving. The lock of the week on Thursday Night Football under his rushing yards. So it was I enjoyed the game, to be honest. So
Can you bet how many times a guy gets sacked? Because
probably.
if you can give me 5.5 over, I'm taking Caleb in week 18. He's going to get annihilated. And if I could bet on body language too, like most shrugs in a game, we would go probably 11.5 would be the line of over under for Caleb Williams. First half, we're going to cash that because it'll be like, oh, man. It's crazy. That was a horrible post-Christmas game, but that's what you get with Thursday night football games. And you know what? We should have known better than even betting on it, unless you're betting the unders.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is all the home teams, you would think home field advantage and short weeks and all that stuff. Now, I think you're right. There's the better teams win, but we're going to try to win this week in props and got some touchdown calls later in the show for you too. So without further ado, download the Betting Pros app. Start betting smarter, not harder. We still got college football playoffs going. We've still got NFL playoffs around the corner and some more regular season games, 2 weeks left. So let's start with Jameson Williams here because you've got a feeling about an over on the receiving yards, 53.5. Welsh, let's talk about it.
Well, the Lions are going to make the 49ers look like the Bears on Thursday Night Football. They're going to win by 30, 40 points. They're not going to rest anybody. The 49ers are a disaster, and it's going to center around a big play from Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams at 53.5 is his receiving yard marker. He has hit this in 4 of his last 5 games. He has had 7 or more targets in those. 4 or 5 games. He has had 7 or more targets. He has hit this yard prop in 4 of his last 6 games. Many projections already got him at the 60-yard marker. So 59.5 is where I've seen it, right around 60. It's going to be a big play. And the funny thing is the 49ers, they don't rank super high as far as like receiving yards given up. But this is going to be a primetime game where they are going to get annihilated. They're going to get annihilated. We know Purdy plays bad at home. Not saying that Juwan Jennings and stuff can't put a play in here. You can throw on the Lions at the end of the day. So that might put a little wrinkle in. I'm ladder betting the spread for the Lions up to 9.5. I've already done it. I've already done some versions of it. So that might put a roll into it. But Jameson Williams had a bunch of big targets. He's a huge yak guy, makes big plays. Amon-Ra is going to stay on the inside. This team is banged up. Dre Greenlaw, he's shut down for the season. Don't be surprised if you get a couple more shutdowns from the 49ers. They're eliminated. They're not playing for anything. Jameson Williams going to catch one around right around the middle. He's going to turn it upfield, make a big play. 53.5 might hit on one play. I believe also, looking at this, I believe he has had 5 plays of 50 yards or more this season. Or maybe I'm thinking of someone else that's on my betting card here. But big plays for Jameson Williams.
Oh, he's
going
going
to have another big
this year for sure. And that's been his MO. So I like this one. Betting the over on the longest reception is always a good one too. Let's talk about the change of quarterback in Tennessee, because Mason Rudolph took over and hit both of the NWI and Calvin Ridley touchdown calls last week because of it. But there's another guy that benefits from having Mason Rudolph under center. Who is it, Andrew Erickson?
So I'm rolling with Chig Okonkwo as my receiver tight end to go over his receiving yards prop for the Tennessee Titans. So it's listed at over 37.5. So this was a prop I was on. It wasn't on the show last week. I did go 3-2 on the show last week. Depends on the Ramondre Stevenson number you got. Closed at 13.5. He had 13 receiving yards, but on the show it was 12.5. So I'm taking that as a hit for me. So 3-2. But I did like the Chig Okonkwo play last week. It was lower last week. It's been moved up almost 9-10 yards. I don't care. It's still too low. I mean, he had 81 receiving yards last week. He is Mason Rudolph's number 1 target the last 2 weeks. It hasn't been Calvin Ridley. And I like the matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Though the 3rd most touchdowns to tight ends this season. They've been one of these tight end funnel defenses. So Mason Rudolph has looked pretty good. I mean, at least he's competent. He's not Will Levis. Like that's the thing. Like, I just have so much more
faith.
It's a
low bar in all fairness.
Exactly.
It's a low bar.
But it is the holiday season. His last name is Rudolph. So why not back him here in this spot here? So I just think it's a very low number here. Again, 81 receiving yards last week.
On the app, like seasonal betting based upon names. I feel like that's one of the betting systems, right? Guys named Rudolph in the month of December.
I definitely remember writing streaming tight end articles about Kyle Rudolph, like around this time of year, like constantly, like, oh, the red zone reindeer, Kyle Rudolph, here we go.
The red zone reindeer. That's a really, I like that.
Are there any other Christmas-based player names?
I'm sure there are, not named Rudolph.
Caleb Williams did his best Grinch impression last night. So.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But regardless, his contract grew 3 sizes anyway, so it doesn't matter. Let's talk about Mike Evans, a guy who is certainly trying to finish the season with a bang. There's no doubt about that. The receptions number is 5.5, and Welsh. Let's talk about you going over or under that number.
Yeah, we're going to go over. And by the way, keeping with the accountability plays, I was also 3-2 last week. Hit the reception parlay to throw out to everybody, but fell apart with the 2 when we didn't hit. Guys got injured. So I have this bad luck right now. If I'm not going to hit a prop, I'm going to hurt a player. And hopefully it's not going to be Mike Williams, because Mike Williams is playing for some stuff. He had 8 his last game receptions versus the Carolina Panthers. The number is 5.5 this week for Mike Evans. He has had 8 or more targets in 3 of his last 4 games. And whether you like it or not, there's an incentive narrative that's been out there. There's obviously the 1,000 yard season that he wants to hit, but some people have put together, you can find it out online, from an incentive based standpoint, he needs 13 receptions. He needs, whatever the yard marker is, it's like 130 or 150 or something like that. And he needs a touchdown. So 1 touchdown, 13 receptions, and quite a bit more yards to get to that 1,000. And that is a $3 million bonus, by the way. So receptions, yards, and touchdown equate to a really big bonus on the incentive side. So I throw that all out to you to say that Baker Mayfield has also been out there talking about these. He's like, I'm paying attention to it for Mike Evans. I'm pretty sure if there's a $3 million bonus, it's in play here. That's kind of wonky stuff, sure, but it's Carolina Panthers. He's hit this before. He's got to have a big reception game to be in tow with it into week 18. So that's why I'm also hitting the reception marker, because the yards are high. It's 81. He does need to hit that. Because again, I'm forgetting what the yards are. I'd have to go look for it, but it's a high number on the 81, and it's probably going to move up to like 83 by the time we lock into games. But it's a high receiving yard total. So if we're going to get to that total, let me play 6 receptions, which he did against this team before. And there's an incentive based into it. So 5.5 over receptions for Mike Evans. That's a play that I like.
All right, let's talk about Cooper Rush. The Dallas Cowboys are going to go into Philadelphia this week, and the number is pretty low here, and it is only 194.5 for the passing total. Now, he's actually hit this every week since week 11, except one, ironically, of all weeks against the Cincinnati Bengals, one where you think you would smash this. So, Erickson, I know the Eagles' secondary has played very well this year, but it is a low number. Do you struggle with the under here? Because I know you're on that this week.
No, I don't struggle with it, because one of his other games that he didn't hit it was against the Eagles, and he threw for 45 yards. Like,
fair enough.
And
CeeDee Lamb, I guess that's the big
CeeDee Lamb's
too,
like,
right?
It's all matchups based. Like, look at who Cooper Rush has faced when he's been hitting the overs. Oh, the Buccaneers, bad defense. Panthers, bad defense. Again, you mentioned the Bengals. He didn't even get it against the Cincinnati Bengals. Giants, Commanders, Texans. Like, this is all about the matchup. The fact that CeeDee Lamb is not playing and the fact that Jalen Hurts is probably not going to play. This game is going to scream towards, there's not going to be a lot of points in this game. Like, this is a game where I think it's going to be done. There's a reason why the total is, I think, at 40.5 points. Probably be going down more once Hurts is immediately ruled out. So if the Eagles want to win this game, it's going to come on the back of their defense. So I think they're really going to put the clamps down on this Dallas Cowboys offense. And this is where we've seen Cooper Rush struggle before in the past. Now you're playing on the road in December in Philadelphia without CeeDee Lamb. I don't think Cooper Rush is coming anywhere near 200 passing yards. So I'm taking the under here at 194.5 passing yards for Cooper Rush.
All right, let's move on to the next one here. Let's talk about Breece Hall as the Jets try to finish up their season. Ticketmaster, last couple weeks, by the way, just keeps on sending me messages. Jets tickets available, Giants tickets available. Yeah, I get it. I know why they're available. I don't want to go just because I live in this region. So stop sending me those messages, please. Breece Hall, let's talk about it because you guys are both in on the same thing here, which is the receiving yards prop. The number's 21.5 on the over. Welsh, let's start with you on this one too. Why is this prop so appealing to you this week in the matchup against the Buffalo Bills? Is it just a matter of game script?
Yeah, this is a squad ride, by the way. Yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold. It's the Bills, first off. Bills have given up the most receiving yards to running backs on the season. So that would be your number one reason. It's like over 700 yards receiving to RBs. Hall had 19 touches last week, 5 of which were receptions where he went over 38 yards. 3 of his last 5 games he has hit this, and the one miss was 21 yards. So, you know, there was that worry about him being shut down. Then he publicly came out and said, hey, if the veterans can play, I can go. They got him back involved. That was the big key, was just getting him back. By the way, the one, if you don't count the 21-yard one, the other one was when he just had like 9 touches or 10 touches when he first came back. You got the touches back. You got a defense where you literally can do this. You can, as a running back, get yards and the receiving side. And that's what Breece Hall does. And I think, you know, you might have some of the younger guys going between the tackles, but this is all just about touches and the script against the Buffalo Bills. 21.5 is a wildly low number for Breece Hall. Projections have him over 30 right now. The only thing that takes me out of this is if he were to come out of the game and not get a full workload, but he had 19 touches last week. So I feel really good about that. And I would guess for the most part, that's why we're both on this one, Erickson, because it just kind of screams.
Yeah.
Erickson, your thoughts on the 21.5?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I put it on here, because I wasn't trying to just pick another prop that probably was going to miss. Like, if you're going to make one prop, like, it would be the Breece Hall one for me as we're talking through these top props for this week. I think the thing that's cool about the prop bet cheat sheet and like the analyzer, what you can do is you can filter whether the team is a favorite or an underdog. So you're kind of considering taking into what can the game script be. So it's funny because the Jets have barely been underdogs all year long. Which is comical based on their record because they've just been terrible. But they are underdogs in this spot playing on the road against Buffalo. And this is when Breece Hall is more involved in the passing game. So he's averaged over 36 receiving yards per game when the Jets have been underdogs this season. And in his career, he's 10-3 towards the over on his receiving yards prop when they're underdogs. So yes, they're not going to have the opportunity to feed Breece Hall the ball. Oh, let's try to run out the clock. No, like they're going to be throwing most likely in this spot. The Bills have been giving it up to running backs all year long in the passing game, and he kind of took over that backfield last week after coming in a little bit slower right when he was coming back from his injury. So, yeah, I love Breece Hall in the spot. And his receivers, Devontae's a little bit banged up, dealing with the hip injury. Garrett Wilson is he's looking like he might be checked out, but Breece Hall looks like he's trying to play and put up some numbers. So, again, I got Breece Hall in a couple fantasy championships. I need him to get those receiving yards, so I'm looking forward to getting some points with Breece Hall this week.
Also want to point out, this is the second squad ride of the year. First squad ride, we cashed. So just want to throw this out. The official squad ride meter, this is number 2 on the line. And I will say the other one was pretty ugly. It was Jalen Waddle.
I was going to say it's Waddle. I mean,
but we smashed it.
Well, it is funny that it was Waddle because like Waddle and Breece Hall were probably like my favorite like picks in like the first and second rounds of fantasy drafts, and they were
values this year. And
they were both they did not pan out, either of them. So.
Turns out they were values for a reason, but who knew? Who knew 2024 would kick us in the pants quite the way it did on certain players? But let's talk about a matchup here between the Denver Broncos and the Cincinnati Bengals. This is one that I've invested in already. And I want to start with Courtland Sutton here because I did mention earlier too, talking about the secondary struggling all year with Cincinnati. This is one that keeps bearing fruit pretty much every single week. And Sutton has a very achievable number. I think that's the best way to put it here. 63.5 on the receiving yards. And to me, this is one of the safer bets on this week 17 board. Welsh, do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. It's a very good number. The only thing that would be a slight worry as we're doing this is there's a little bit of a weather concern. Nothing crazy, but you just see rain and stuff like that. It messed up the Thursday night. It can go either way. People say don't bet against the rain, but we've also seen some messy games when there is a little bit of that. So there's a little bit floating out there, but back to your point, it's a very achievable number, 63.5. He's had 8 or more targets in 7 of his last 8 games, Courtland Sutton has, and he has hit this total in 6 of his last 8. And just to throw this back to you, if you're playing the incentive market, let's also talk about a veteran wide receiver with a rookie quarterback who's like, hey, this is what I need to hit $500,000. He has to average 70 yards per game over the last 2 games of the season, and he'll hit a $500,000 marker. So even a little bit more incentive if you want to throw that out here, whatever they can actually do for that. But absolutely, players and a guy like Courtland Sutton's going to pay attention to that while it's a very achievable number. So projections are right in marker here. He's the number 1 target for Bo Nix. Also, this isn't even mentioning just the Bengals in general from a fantasy perspective. Their defense stinks. So you're going to be able to throw it. The only thing that takes you off is the Green Bay Packer-ness that they do to the offense where they'll rotate wide receivers. But luckily, unlike the Packers, Courtland Sutton just doesn't come off the field. They'll just rotate the rest of the guys. So I feel really good about this against a really garbage defense and with Bo Nix, and Courtland Sutton has been kind of smashing this. So it's one of my favorites. Breece Hall probably the number 1 this week, but I really like this bet.
Speaking of Bo Nix, by the way, too, 19.5 is the rushing yards prop for him. He's hit this 4 of his last 5 games. And Erickson, you think he can go for it again this week?
Yeah, because this is a matchup where the Broncos should be chasing points, right? Going back to projected game script, they are underdogs here. 6 of the 8 games where the Broncos have been underdogs, he's gone over his rushing yards prop. And the way that you look at his game logs, he either has a lot of rushing yards or a very, very small amount of rushing yards. And it's basically all based on, well, when they're controlling the game, they don't need to be more aggressive. He doesn't run. But in games where, hey, we're down, you got to use your legs, Bo Nix. We saw that last week against the Chargers. He had 25 rushing yards on 3 carries. They were an underdog in that game. I was on that bet in that particular matchup, so I'm going right back to it. And the fact that the Bengals, they've allowed the most rushing yards and most rushing attempts to quarterbacks this season. Now, it's a little bit inflated because they play Lamar Jackson twice this year, Jaden Daniels, etc. But it is on film, right, that mobile quarterbacks are getting there against the Cincinnati Bengals defense that we know is just bad overall. They're bad against the run, they're bad against the pass. And if it's not going to Courtland Sutton, you're going to see Bo Nix using his legs a lot in this spot. So, maybe a little SGP action. You got the Courtland Sutton over. You got the Bo Nix rushing over. Have some fun on Saturday.
All right, we're going to have some fun on Saturday, everybody. Let's get to the last one for the guys before we turn our attention to the touchdown calls. And remember, if you want to look at props for the Denver Broncos game or any game, go to the prop bet cheat sheet, bettingpros.com/props, or if you have the app, and you should by now, it's week 17. What have you been doing with your life? Just look for the prop bet cheat sheet on there too. It is the way to go. And as soon as you sort through all the props by, by position, by game, however you want to do it, it gives you the ability to see the fantasy projections against the props and then the best place to bet them. So you make sure that you get the value every single time out. You can use some of the ones from the guys here, or of course, go and find ones on your own using the prop bet cheat sheet only on BettingPros. It's my favorite thing. Honestly, it's my favorite thing on the BettingPros app. Let's get to the last pick here for the guys. Let's start with Jordan Love here for you. So you're looking for a big day out of Jordan Love here. Let's talk about it, Welsh, because the Packers right now starting to get hot at the right time. And also Jordan Love doing a really good job in the last few weeks too of also limiting any turnovers, which is what he did last year in the second half. And that was the secret sauce for the Packers. Don't turn the ball over, be efficient. And that young team went out there and performed very well all the way through the playoffs.
Well, and I've been talking about this earlier in the week that I love this matchup for Jordan Love. And we're not just playing the yard total. I'm going to make my bet just an alt line bet. And this isn't a ladder. I mean, you can ladder it, obviously, if I'm playing an alt line. But the bet here is we are alt lining to 300 passing yards. And we're getting 3.5 to 1 on that. So obviously, 240 something is, I think, his current line. You'll get your minus 110 or minus 115 or whatever nonsense. We're going to play to the over, and we're going to go right at the 300 alt line. Minnesota is giving up the third most passing yards on the season overall. Over the last month, the third most passing yards as well. Now, the worry when you do talk about Jordan Love is he's kind of struggled getting to 300 this year. You've also seen some of the pass attempts go down a little bit. He's actually only hit 300 once this season against the Minnesota Vikings, where he dropped 348. You can pass against them. It's a divisional matchup. It means a lot. They're going to go back and forth. If Christian Watson's out, you don't necessarily love that for some of the deep game. But you know what? Big Jaden Reed plays. Tucker Kraft is involved. Screen passes to Josh Jacobs. Alt line 300 Jordan Love is my play because it's 3.5 to 1. Again, I don't know how comfortable I would feel laddering that, but I just love the odds instead of just playing, you know, a 40 or 50 yard marker down just because what you can do against this. And the thing I'd point out too, is you go and look at like even our own stuff, our matchup ratings, it grades Minnesota out as like a bad matchup for Jordan Love. It's not. It's not. Again, 348 is what he dropped on Minnesota earlier this year. And they have consistently, you see teams where it's like, you look at the total for the year and it's like, oh, look, they're giving up the 5th most passing yards. But then they lock it down the last month. Minnesota, it's just all year consistently. You can slang the ball against them. And that is what I think they're going to do. Jordan Love, alt 300 passing yards. Go get it at 3.5 to 1.
All right. Last one here. Small numbers are really good. We like small numbers. 2.5 receptions is what we have here for Tre Tucker. And the Undertaker says that small number isn't small enough, is what you're saying here. Now, the juice is very extreme, too. So you got to walk me through this because once, plus money on the small numbers, sign me up. I'm very excited. But small number where it might be easily achievable and the heavy juice, Erickson, Undertaker's got to walk me back from the grave here.
I mean, can't go broke making a profit, right? If he doesn't go over 2.5 catches, then you're still making money. So I'm doing Tre Tucker under 2.5 receptions. He's under this in 4 straight games. How do I know that? Because in the prop bet cheat sheet, in the analyzer, the little icicle snowflake is next to his name, which means he's on a cold streak. But for me, it's like a hot streak because I like betting on these unders. So he's just not a integral part of the Raiders passing game. Like Aiden O'Connell is looking for Brock Bowers. He's looking for Jacoby Myers. And even last week, he was hyper-targeting the running backs out of the backfield, Amir Abdullah and Alexander Madison. So Tre Tucker really kind of falls like 5th or even 6th in like the pecking order in terms of who do I want to get the ball to in this matchup. Again, they're playing the Saints. It doesn't really have to do with the particular amount. I mean, Tre Tucker could rip off a big play. Like, that's why I'm staying away from his receiving yards, but he's not a volume receiver. Like, he doesn't see volume unless one of these guys gets hurt. So the fact 4 straight unders, under in 6 of his last 8 games, I'm just going to trust the process here and just take the under of Tre Tucker.
Okay, let's take a look at the touchdown scores for week 17. And just a reminder, too, at bettingpros.com/touchdown, you can get the edge when it comes to betting touchdowns. And our touchdown score report compares anytime touchdown stats to the prop bet odds and projects the best possible opportunities to find pay dirt. So head over to bettingpros.com/touchdown today for the latest touchdown prop analysis to make you a winner so you can score big with touchdowns over on Betting Pros. Welsh, let's start with you here. You actually are doubling down on some of your props, not just to go over, but also to score. And I think that makes a lot of sense. If you love a guy during that week, you might as well go all in.
Yes, sir. We are going right back to Mike Evans. By the way, I can clean up the Mike Evans thing from earlier. The incentive is he's got to average around 90 yards receiving per game to get to that 1,000-yard marker. So that's why, 81 is out there. The 13 receptions. And what did I say before? A touchdown. He's got to get a touchdown in there. Carolina Panthers, touchdown. So that's why I love this one. There's juice to it. It's minus money. It's minus 125. I already bet it. I don't know where it's going to move. If it moves up any amount, I'll rebet it again. But this is this isn't a cute week. I looked at all of our touchdowns, by the way. None of us are getting really cute. We want to score this week. We want to hit, and I'm playing a minus money on Mike Evans. And then as you mentioned on the double down, I think Jared Goff and them are going to be slinging the ball against the 49ers, and I think Jameson Williams is going to be the beneficiary of a big touchdown, so I'm going to bet him. And by the way, it's not crazy juiced. I mean, you got to shop around, but I got it around like 115. There might be some better odds out there, but I mean, the market is telling you that Jameson Williams' odds on scoring a touchdown are getting closer and closer to even money, so I'm getting a little bit of extra benefit on it. But yes, I am tailing my actual props, touchdowns, Mike Evans and Jameson Williams.
All right. For me, I'm looking at the matchup of the Buccaneers against Carolina Panthers on the ground there and being obviously favorable. Now, I like to bet Bucky Irving, but the juice is a little bit too much for me. So instead of going Bucky Irving, I'm going to go with another running back. How about Rachaad White at plus 130? Much better number on him. Bucky way in the minus there, which is obvious reasons, but Rachaad White gets some attention around that red zone area as well in the goal line. So I would not be shocked to see Rachaad White be the guy that slams the ball in there. Also, in that same game before that Welsh was talking about, I'm going to look for some touchdowns too. He might be looking at Jordan Love, but I'm looking at Jordan Addison here, plus 165. Another guy who's been a touchdown machine for Sam Darnold and the Vikings this year. So Jefferson's was a little bit lower, barely in the plus money. So give me a little bit more on that positivity when it comes to Jordan Addison getting in the end zone. That leaves you, the Undertaker. Andrew Erickson, give me a couple touchdowns at week 17.
Well, these are going to hit because there's no Trey McBride to be found here on the touchdown.
Thank goodness.
But hold on. Let's stop for 1 second.
What?
How can you just not?
Because
I'm
I'm not.
again.
I mean, I'm not going to make this again. 2 weeks in a row, I'm not making this public anymore. If you want to follow me, see if I'm going to bet it or not, follow me on the BP app, and you'll find out if I'm a sicko.
Spoiler alert, he's a sicko. He's going to bet it this week.
But I just can't. I need to give the people a break, okay? Like, it's not fair for me to just like every week, Trey McBride, touchdown, here we go. But inevitably it'll happen this week because I won't.
You know how you go broke? Betting Trey McBride touchdowns.
Yes.
That's how you really go broke.
You know, remember that thing where it was like, if you parlayed your winnings of Christian McCaffrey, remember last year, you would be blah, blah, blah. If you would have done it with Trey McBride, you'd be on the street.
You would have given it all back.
Yeah, you'd be on the street. So.
They call it Boxing Day because that's my new home, the box.
Yeah,
but I don't live in.
Yeah. There you go.
So the ones I like this week, Devontae Adams plus 175. I think that this is crazy value. Look, Aaron Rodgers, his next touchdown is going to be his 500th regular season passing touchdown. It is not going to Garrett Wilson. Sorry. It's going to Devontae Adams. Like, that's the guy he wants to have catch it. Even if it takes 10 targets in the red zone, Devontae Adams is banged up. He's going to be out there when the Jets have red zone opportunities, and he's going to score a touchdown. So I like Devontae plus 175. I think it should be, honestly, in minus odds because I just think he's going to score. He scores every week. So I like Devontae. And then the other guy I like a lot, Aaron Jones. Again, high-scoring game, Vikings versus Packers. The last time these teams played very earlier in the year, this was in Green Bay, but the Vikings tried every way to get Aaron Jones a touchdown. He didn't score, though. He did not end up finding the end zone against his old team. They're going to make sure that he scores in this game, and they're going to need him to score in a game that should be high scoring. So Aaron Jones minus 135. It's a bit juicy, but if he's rocking the sombrero, baby, you know he's going to find the end zone. So Aaron Jones, I'm going to try to actually get guys that score. So I'm going to have fun this week. Aaron Jones touchdown.
There you go. You have fun this week too, everybody. Download the BettingPros app, use the prop bet cheat sheet, and also follow everybody too. You can follow Erickson, you can follow Welsh, myself, all on the app as well. And you get the free trial of the premium. If you haven't tried it, this is the time to do so. Shout out to everybody also who's been hanging out with us all year. Hope everyone's having a nice holiday season. And in the new year, lots of fun, exciting stuff coming at you for BettingPros. So make sure wherever you are, you subscribe to the BettingPros YouTube channel. Ring the bell till it goes ding for notifications. And of course, wherever you get your podcasts as well. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For the Undertaker and the Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Enjoy week 17. And don't bet Trey McBride touchdowns. Don't do it.